Hi, thank you for joining me to sketch some florals. This is my very first draw with me. I'm going to be setting up the stage here and then kind of fading away and letting you chill out and hang out. Just going to explain a few things. So currently what I'm doing is I'm looking at the reference photo and mapping out on page the different elements that I want to use within that reference photo on this sketch. I like to block out in big shapes so that I can get my composition down. Sometimes the composition is already in play when it comes to the reference photo, but still I need to map out where those are going to sit on the page. As you can see now, I'm starting to get into some of the details of the sketch. So petals, I'm still just trying to figure out where they sit on the page and not really going into too many details, just getting the overall shape of everything. The reference photo that I used for this I pulled off of Pinterest, and it is by Boston Pollen on Instagram. It's a beautiful image, and all of her images are absolutely beautiful. And I love the florals that she posts. I just have to say that I love drawing large petaled flowers, especially ones that have really interesting curves in them. It's so interesting to me to wrap my head around the actual flower itself and how nature bends it in order for it to do what it needs to do. It's so fascinating for me. When I'm sketching something like this, where it has multiple items and different layers of items, I tend to always go for what's biggest as well as what can be seen the easiest. That's why I started out with that really large flower, and now I'm going into some of the smaller flowers that are very detailed, but yet kind of sit back a little bit within the scheme of the drawing itself. So at this point, I'm drawing the highlights of the flower. And I'm also at that point where I feel like I've lost it. I've just lost the flower completely. I know that there are some dark shades in there. I know that as soon as I start adding in the darker values, it's going to come back again. But I really kind of feel at this point that I've just kind of lost the design of the flower and the beauty of the flower. And that's something that always happens in any sketches. I just feel like, oh, this is never going to work. And then I just push through it because you have to move on, and you can either work it and make it look better, or you can give up and go home. And I choose not to give up and go home. I do want to give you a key to drawing any type of circular fruit, whether that be like a grape, or here in this case raspberries, or even just like a cluster of blueberries. The key is that you draw everything that you can see wholly first. So whatever the largest blueberry or the largest raspberry pit in this case is what you're going to see first. And you'll see as I go through this, I'm making these whole circles, and then I'm starting to layer them in behind and kind of to the contour of the raspberry itself. And then on the ends, that's where you start to see like half of a raspberry pit. Is that what they're called? A pit? Half of raspberry itself. And so it's not a perfect circle for the entire raspberry. There are these little tiny ripples around it, which just make for more depth. as I'm working through this particular flower, and really any of these flowers, I'm never really looking for a direct one-to-one relationship to the original reference photo. I'm exaggerating things according to how I want the final image to be. I am adding things in sometimes where they're completely out. Sometimes I am just looking for an accurate representation of, say, a raspberry in this space. But I am constantly making design decisions as I'm sketching and as I'm thinking through this and trying to figure out how am I going to make the reference photo better? How am I going to add my own bit of flair to this particular image? I've noticed as I sketch that I do my sketches like I do my pen and ink drawing, which maybe it's form before function, or maybe it's just I'm so used to ink sketching rather than pencil sketching, and I just naturally do hatching for shading. I try to make sure that I'm showing the curves of whatever it is that I'm drawing, in this case in the petals with slight curves, but then also I do hatching over and over instead of using a method of smudging or anything like that. I just try to keep the crisp lines, and that's just how I work. And here, this is the point where I can start to bring back some of those details that I thought that I lost in the actual line drawing itself, and make it feel much more like there's depth in each of the flowers. And that just about wraps this up. Thank you for joining me and for sketching along and or just chilling with me while we do this sketch. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave a note below. And it was fantastic spending this time with you.